well, you couldn't have missed last year's Saloon of the Year, really. I think the 5 Series BMW, which was unveiled in 1996, arguably my car of the year. They've gone one better. After the 5 Series Saloon, they've launched the touring version. They don't call this an estate, because estate cars are those grubby things for taking rubbish down to the municipal tip-in. A BMW 5 Series estate is called the 5 Series Touring. You don't put rubbish in the back, you put your golf clubs in the back, or occasionally you might put a little bit of shopping in the back when you go to one of those upmarket supermarkets. Now, it's interesting design. Of course, it's got the conventional boot release so that you can just lift it like that, but in case you've just got a couple of carrier bags and you need to plonk them in the back, probably Harrods bags actually, just a little flick of that switch and in they go. You've got here a cover to hide any valuables you've got in the boot. You've also got beneath the floor a lockable compartment, which means you can put some small valuables sort of in with the spare wheel, and in theory nobody would ever know about it, but I've just told them where to look now, haven't I? Silly me. You'll like this, I promise you. How about this? Oh look, they think of everything. Look, not only is there an extended load carrying area for putting loads on and then sliding them in if they're awkward, or even for putting your kids on if you're having a picnic or the kids are trying to get off their muddy boots or something like that. But attention to detail, I think we call that. Look, we didn't know that was there. But I really do worry. This only takes 75 kilos, and that means that a fat bastard like me couldn't sit on it. So I'm not sure that that's a great idea, and it costs, all adds to the cost. And talking of cost, the new 5 Series BMW Touring goes on sale in April. It will cost of the order of £25,000, about £25,300 for the 2-litre version. But get this, it goes up to about £45,000 for the 4-litre 540i. To put that in context, you could have this car plus a very nice 3 Series Saloon. I'll come to that. Probably a bottom of the range 5 Series Saloon for the price of just one 540i Touring. I can't really see, although the 540 is better equipped in every department virtually, I can't see how a car that shares the same body shell as another one can be £19,000-20,000 more expensive. But it has to be said that with that 540i you get a lot for your money. You also get a lot for your money with the bottom of the range 520, I should add. In fact, BMW reckon that there's only a sort of £1,900-2,000 price premium over the saloon version. So that's what you're paying for the equivalent estate, or as they prefer to call it, touring. Now the other one. And this one. Would you pay £25,350 for this car?
It doesn't like it. What is it?
We're joined by an old friend of the programme, Chris Willows from BMW GB. Chris, who's going to buy this sort of car?
Well, judging by the people who previously bought the 5 Series Touring, they're executive managers of companies. They're a lot of them company owners. Almost 50% of people who actually own or have a serious stake in a company. And of course, family people. I mean, this is a more flexible saloon car, in effect, rather than an estate. That's the way we put it across, and that's why the previous one was bought. So it's family people, but family people who have a degree of success or can control their own lifestyles.
And a degree of money in the bank as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And talk us through the range. It starts with the 520i, which I think comes in at about 25, 350, something like that.
That's right.
And what other versions are there?
Well, the 2-litre one, 520, comes in May. It's first of all the 528 and the 525 TDS diesel. The 520 is the range starter, if you like, at the price you've mentioned, 350. That will be followed by the 523, which confusingly has a 2.5-litre engine in it. The 528, which is this car here. Then the 525 TDS. That's the diesel intercooled turbocharged version. And topping out the range is a large 4.4-litre 8-cylinder engine car, the 540i Touring.
Now that comes in from memory at about 45 grand.
Yeah, just under.
Huge price difference. I mean, you're getting the same body shell, but you're paying £20,000 more for the car. Now, all right, you're getting a bigger engine, but it seems an awful huge price disparity.
You're getting more than double the size of engine, Mike, for it.
But does that account for 20 grand?
Of course, part of it is the engine. It's an 8-cylinder engine. It's produced in very much smaller quantities, and the engine is much more expensive to produce. But it's not just the engine, it's the equipment that you get with the car as well. That car comes as standard with air conditioning and all sorts of creature comforts, if you like, that make it the sort of car you would expect at £45,000.
But it is true to say you could actually buy a bottom-of-the-range 5 Series Touring and a 1.9-litre Z3 for the same price as one top-of-the-range Touring.
I can see the direction you're coming from, Mike.
I think it's worth having a closer look at this rear tailgate because it's this soft touch device. There's no leverage goes on here, just a gentle touch. You may have heard that. And it lifts up. And similarly, when you close it, there's no slamming, just a gentle drop down of the hatch and it kind of shuts electronically. This extended load carrying area, I'm not quite so sure about. It extends about 2 foot. It will take, like I said, 75 kilos, which means that somebody like me, it's probably a little bit too heavy for. But the idea is that if you've got a couple of kids, maybe we'll find a couple of kids later to demonstrate the point. You can have them sitting here, maybe peeling off their muddy boots or, I don't know, having a picnic watching the point to point or something like that. But like I said, this is not an estate car, this is a touring. And it doesn't do grubby things like go down to the municipal tip. It carries hampers and Harrods bags and golf clubs and that sort of thing. In fact, for that test drive, we've grabbed a 528i SE, which stands for Special Equipment. And you would think, wouldn't you, from that badging, that this car, and particularly its price tag of £32,505, would be a car that would be very well equipped, as indeed it is. But in fact, the version we're in right now actually has, believe it or not, £10,500 worth of extras on top of that. So we're in a sort of £43,000 version. What do all those extras include? Well, for starters, you've got these what are called comfort memory seats, which means that you can set the position every time you climb back in the car after somebody else has driven it. The seat will go back to the position that personally favours you. There's also the onboard navigation system, which is probably the most advanced of its type. That's another £4,000, something of that order. We've got metallic paint, one or two other things, 10.5 grand worth of extras on this particular car. I mean, my advice for people would be, go for the basic car. Ironically, we don't have a sunroof, funnily enough, but you know, I think a sunroof is not a bad idea. This car's got a very expensive CD system. Avoid CDs, just stick with a cassette player and a radio, and really ask yourself if you're going to get anything back on all those extras you're investing in. You know, it's a bit like having an expensive kitchen fitted in the house. When you come to sell that house, you ain't going to get the money back on what you spent on that fitted kitchen. And the same rule applies with cars, really. Spend several £1,000s on extras. When you come to sell the car, you won't get a great deal more for it. Certainly you won't get your money back. I mean, as you'd expect from a quality car like a BMW, driving this is the absolute, well, for me, I can't think of too many cars I'd rather be driving cross country. You remember a few weeks ago we looked at the saloon version, and I was raving then about its driving qualities, its refinement, I don't know if you can get a sense of that acceleration, but you know, absolutely nothing lacking in performance terms. And in terms of comfort and feeling at one with the car, I mean, you just cannot go wrong. I don't quite know how BMW do it, but you kind of snuggle in, you get behind the wheel, and you instantly feel confident. Immediately, this sort of vehicle inspires you and makes you want to drive. You know, it's a corny old thing to say. They call it the ultimate driving machine. And you know, in terms of saloon cars and estate cars, touring cars, then really I think they have very, very few competitors, if any at all. The days when Mercedes gave BMW a run for their money, I think, are over.